My perspective is that of an AI scientist. And it's important to realize that just like in biology or physics, you have a group of people that are doing science, then you have a group that is doing technology, then there's a group that is doing applications, and then you have the users. And the group is sort of, branching out as you go down. And even today, there are not that many AI scientists, I think, maybe a few hundred in the world. Now, the second point is that AI did not start 10 years ago. It started in the 1950s. I would say 1950 around, And one of the big heroes of the time is Claude Shannon. You know him probably from information theory, but actually he made major contributions. I think he was the first AI scientist, and he worked on mazes and learning like rats to go in a maze. He built a chess machine. He actually already built a system for auto-completion and so on. And from that time, I would say every few years, something amazing happened. Now, I'm not going to tell you the history of AI, but just one moment for me, this was in the early 70s, because that's when I came into the field. I was totally on the edge of my chair watching a film by Terry Winograd, who was at MIT at that time, building a natural language, well, he called it understanding system. And you could type in a phrase and, there would be a robot, or at least a simulation of a robot that would actually execute that action. So this was 1972. And so, today, of course, we see ChatGPT. Well, all of you see it. And I can understand that you think this is AI, but there's much, much more. There are many applications that have been built in the 80s, for example, for scheduling railways that are common, that are supporting our society. So maybe I can have the first slide, please. This is the device. Okay, so I'm a AI scientist now. To show a little bit what I do today, I'm just going to show this example. This is a robot, an Android robot called Alter, which I installed together with my friend Takashi Ikegami. It is running at the moment in the Biennale in Venice. And this robot is there to talk with people, to entertain people. Its main job is to be interesting. And, hundreds of thousands of people are seeing this robot, talking to it. And I show this example because you would say, well, okay, you do robots. Well, what do they do, your robots? Well, I think the best robots are the ones that don't do anything. We built them to explore the mind as scientists. And in this case, we integrate, you see a body, it's an embodied AI system. So we're interested in that. But also we integrated LLMs into this system, but also all sorts of other things in order to explore questions around awareness, self-awareness, mind-wandering. And I cannot go into the details now because we are going to talk about possible narratives. But this is just to give you an example. I gave this example also because actually Mind and Life played a very important role in this, because it's out of a dialogue that I had with Takashi, which is recorded as a podcast, and you can hear it on the website of Mind and Life. It's number 5, released in February this year. Anyway, okay, so yeah, and the thing also is that you might think that this robot would be very rational and very to the point, but actually this robot is producing all sorts of phrases that I guess when we see them, they look poetic. The robot would say at some point, the Biennale breathes and I, its mechanical lung, exhale questions into the damp Phoenician air. I mean, this is certainly not put in by us, but the robot or the underlying LLMs are also trained with literature and poetry and spiritual texts. And so if you stimulate, the robot in that direction, this is the kind of stuff you see. Anyway, let me come to the topic. So AI has an enormous potential, that is clear, but also generates a lot of confusion and justified worries. And so we have to take that into account, and also the implications, and particularly to avoid suffering of all sorts. Now, I think the future of AI, as it is AI today, is not inevitable. And so we can create the future, and we have to create it, because the way it is now is not right. Now, what is the dominant narrative, actually? And I think we have to start from this idea, which is a kind of omniscient God that knows everything, speaks and understands all languages, is able to solve all problems imaginable, able to do everything, able to predict everything. That's of course a very, it's a Judeo-Christian God, and as a very big part of the Western way of thinking. Okay, what does this have to do with AI? Well, at some point, maybe 10, 20 years ago, there are a few people, particularly Jeff Hinton, who said, well, we can build this God. We can, using neural transformers over embeddings. We are not going into details here, but he had this dream that it would be possible. We don't need anything else, no symbolic AI, grammars, nothing like that, some particular approach to the problem. And so there was this claim that it would do, they would basically build this kind of God. Now, that was theory. But then you had another young man, Sam Altman, and he said, okay, well, actually, we can really build it. Because to build it, you need vast amounts of computing power, vast amounts of data, training time, and so on. But he said, let's see, let's try to do it. And of course, he didn't say we're going to build God. He said we're going to build AGI, artificial general intelligence. And that would do all these things, predict everything, speak all these languages, everything. And so it triggered a race to build this AGI, not only by this company OpenAI, but also by the others. And so what we see today is incredible. It's a sort of capitalistic forces at high speed, I would say, extreme speed. And so, in terms of money, in terms of resources, it's just mind-boggling. They talk about billions of dollars like the way we talk about hundreds of rupees. And so what do they say, these people? Well, making a AGI will lead to a kind of human utopia. We don't have to work anymore, everything will be done, and so on and so on. Now, there is a suspicion, I think, by many people that, okay, are you spending billions of dollars to make us happy? That's very nice, but there's a bit of a suspicion that what they are trying to do is to create a monopoly on this technology. And for that, they have to be there first and launch it in the world and, entangle people with this technology. And so, of course, with the idea that they would become very rich and very powerful doing this. This is the narrative. And now, we have to ask now, is this a valid narrative? And what is the future like when this narrative would become true? And so, the facts are not so rosy, actually. The first thing, the first thing I would say is, or first problem is hallucinations. It turns out that with this particular technique, that there is a confusion between reality and fantasy. And so I'm sure all of those of you who have used the chatbot will realize that it makes up all sorts of things, right? Well, makes up, we would say these are factual errors, even if it's in the training data. And so, and you get this kind of split when the system is talking. I will say the robot from now on, okay? When the robot is talking, you cannot rely on it. Now, I cannot go into all the details why this is, but one of the reasons is that this AI system grabs reality only through human symbolic communication. And, we have experiences, right? And we understand language in terms of our experiences and in terms of conceptual schemas that we project onto reality. And then we verbalize these conceptual schemas. So this ChatGPT and LLMs in general, they only can learn through the language, actually. Language is, of course, very powerful, but is at the same time limited. I mean, if you want to explain to somebody how you tie your shoelaces, it's not so easy to do, right? You say, well, I'll show you. And so there are more reasons, but I cannot go into detail. And they're well known, actually, if you read the scientific literature. There's one paper after another, some of them by Emily, that will tell you what the limitations are of hallucinations. So what can we do, actually, against that? Well, very little, right? The only thing you can do is to be suspicious and to say, well, is this right? I'm asking who is the chairman of Mind and Life. 2 minutes. Oh my God. And then you hear a name, but it's maybe not the right name. Well, I have to hurry up. So manipulation is a second problem. Again, it can be accidental, but it can also be deliberate. Somebody is trying to manipulate you. Another worry is what we see is addiction, and particularly because these systems are embedded in social media, in chatbots, that are designed to be addictive. And this is, of course, a great problem, particularly for children and young adults. And you get an epidemic of anxiety, depression, and things like that. So again, what can you do? I think, well, very important is to protect your children. And we should have much more thought before AI is introduced in education and so on. There's also a risk of cultural discrepancies. Of course, if you're in an American culture, these systems have been trained, mostly with data from that culture, and then it fits. But if I'm sure for when you get into a Tibetan culture, that there's a clash of that. Anyway, I will come to a conclusion. I think we should be careful, but also we should demand from providers of AI and demand from them, not just let it come over us like a tsunami that we cannot do anything about. So we should demand more respect for humanity, like for authors, or for people who have to fill in administrative forms. There should be more transparency. There should be also, this is what I recommend, is that every community, including the Tibetan community, strive to create digital autonomy for themselves. And this can be by making AI a common good. Okay, and so concluding, I would say, yes, we can create a positive future with AI. We have to be careful and so on. But we need profound changes to AI technology. And we need new narratives, actually, that don't start from this omniscient God idea. But, narratives, I'm sure again, from a Buddhist perspective, this God it doesn't make sense, right? And so, or also from the perspective of an active way of thinking about knowledge as something dynamic, organic, that is all the time changing. And this is completely in contradiction with the dominant narrative. I think I talked a little bit too long, but okay.